There's a widely told story in Christian circles that all of Jesus' original 12 apostles, except Judas, died brutal deaths for their faith. This narrative is often used as proof of their conviction. No one, it's argued, would die for a lie. But when we examine the historical evidence, this story unravels. The earliest sources don't support the idea that all the apostles were martyred. Instead, this tradition grew over centuries, as the church sought inspiring stories of heroism. The historical record simply doesn't confirm universal martyrdom. Some apostles may have died for their beliefs, but for many we have little or no reliable information. Our task is to sift fact from legend, asking, who wrote these stories and why? For a few apostles we have credible evidence of martyrdom. For others, only later, conflicting legends. The real story is more complex and human than the popular narrative. A mix of conviction, obscurity, and sometimes sacrifice. Understanding this complexity doesn't undermine faith, it brings us closer to the truth. Only a few apostolic deaths are supported by strong historical evidence. James, the brother of John, is the clearest case. His execution by Herod Agrippa is recorded in Acts, around 44 CE. The account is brief, unembellished, and fits the political context, making it highly credible. Peter's martyrdom in Rome is also well attested by early Christian writers like 1 Clement and Ignatius. While details like his upside-down crucifixion are later additions, his execution under Nero is widely accepted. Paul's death is similarly supported. Early sources confirm his martyrdom in Rome, likely by beheading, fitting Roman legal customs for citizens. These three, James, Peter, and Paul, stand apart. Their deaths are documented by early independent sources, making them historically probable. For the rest of the apostles, reliable information is scarce. Legends later added drama, but the core facts for these three are as certain as anything from antiquity. Their stories highlight the contrast between solid history and later myth. Most apostolic faiths quickly fade into legend. Beyond James, Peter, and Paul, we enter the realm of strong but less certain traditions. Andrew's martyrdom in Greece, bound to an X-shaped cross, comes from 3rd century sources, not early history. The story is powerful, but the evidence is late and devotional, not factual. Thomas's supposed mission to India is cherished by Indian Christians, but the earliest sources are legendary and written centuries after his death. Trade routes made such journeys possible, but there's no 1st or 2nd century confirmation. Both stories may contain a kernel of truth but are wrapped in legend. These traditions show how memory becomes embellished over time. For Andrew and Thomas, we have ancient, meaningful stories but not verifiable history. Their fates remain uncertain. For Bartholomew and Philip, the historical trail is even colder. Traditions about their deaths are late, inconsistent, and often contradictory. Bartholomew is said to have preached in India, Armenia, or Mesopotamia, accounts that can't all be true. The most famous legend has him flayed alive in Armenia, but this is a product of later imagination. Philip's fate is equally confused, with stories placing him in Phrygia, Hierapolis, or elsewhere. Early writers even mixed him up with Philip the Evangelist. These tales serve to give local churches apostolic roots, not to record facts. For both apostles, reliable information vanishes after the New Testament. Their dramatic martyrdoms are legendary, not historical. Their true ends are lost to time. The last apostles, Simon the Zealot, Thaddeus, Jude, and Matthew, are even more obscure. The New Testament gives us only their names. Later traditions fill the gaps with conflicting stories. Simon is variously said to have been martyred in Persia, died peacefully in Edessa, or preached in Britain. Thaddeus is linked to Armenia, Persia, or Syria, with no consistent account. Matthew, despite his supposed authorship of a gospel, disappears from reliable history. Some say he was martyred in Ethiopia or Persia, but these are late, unsubstantiated claims. These stories reflect local pride and theological needs, not historical memory. The real fates of these apostles are unknown. Their legends grew as the church sought to connect itself to the apostolic age. History offers only silence. John, son of Zebedee, is the notable exception to the martyrdom narrative. Early, consistent tradition holds that he died of old age in Ephesus. This memory stands out because it resists the later trend of inventing martyrdoms. 2nd century sources like Irenaeus, who knew John's disciple Polycarp, support this account. John is said to have led the church in Asia Minor for decades, living into his 90s. He suffered persecution. Legend says he survived boiling oil and was exiled to Patmos, where he wrote Revelation. After exile, he returned to Ephesus and died peacefully. John's story combines suffering with a natural death, offering a nuanced view of apostolic faithfulness. His fate shows the Church didn't invent martyrdoms for every apostle. The universal martyrdom narrative is a later simplification. Why did the universal martyrdom story become so powerful? As Christianity grew and faced persecution, stories of heroic apostolic deaths inspired the faithful. The apostles became ideal role models, each facing pagan rulers, performing miracles, and dying bravely. These tales, found in apocryphal Acts, were theological dramas, not history. Over time, inspirational fiction was treated as fact. By the Middle Ages, each apostle had a set mission and a dramatic death immortalized in art and legend. These stories taught faith to the masses, even if they weren't true. The real apostles' lives were likely less dramatic. Some died in obscurity or old age. The martyrdom narrative endured because it was useful. It encouraged, unified, and inspired. It turned apostles into archetypal saints, overshadowing their real, complex histories. Dispelling the myth of universal martyrdom doesn't diminish the apostles' legacy, it deepens it. Their true testament was not all dying as martyrs, but all being willing to suffer for their convictions. They left homes, faced hostility, endured hardship, and for some, met violent ends. Their unwavering willingness to suffer is the real historical foundation of their legacy. The apostles' belief in Jesus' resurrection transformed them from a frightened group into a movement that changed history. Whether martyred or dying peacefully, their lives were shaped by conviction. John's endurance through exile was as powerful as any martyrdom. Even those whose fates are unknown gave up everything for their faith. The true measure of their faith was how they lived, not just how they died. Their story is more powerful in its complexity. Real people, facing real risks with radical purpose. Their unwavering conviction, not just their deaths, is the most compelling evidence of all.